Another claim that comes up in wage and hour actions, an expense reimbursement claim. This is usually an add-on claim. It's essentially that all employers must pay for or reimburse employees for reasonable and necessary business expenses. And here's the way to stay out of trouble. When in doubt, reimburse. Don't try to be cheap about it because it's not worth getting sued over to save a few bucks. In today's day and age, remote work is very, very common. And a reasonable and necessary business expense for people working remotely are utilities. And so it's very, very important to make sure you have a written remote work agreement that covers the things that are considered necessary to do their job. It's probably best practice to provide equipment for them. There's no bright line rule. I wish I could tell you, you need to pay 40% of somebody's utility bill. There's no law on that. That's something to talk about with your employment counsel, coming up with a policy that's defensible with an amount that's considered reasonable. You might want to call it a remote work policy that covers remote work, including but not limited to internet, utilities, and things of that nature, and then having a clause in there that says, I'm signing this policy and it covers all things necessary to my business use, and if I believe that there are any additional expenses, I will immediately bring them to the attention of HR. Other types of expense reimbursement issues we see happen for employers who have employees who are either out in the field or who travel a lot. You have to pay for their mileage if you don't have a company car. If they're using their personal vehicle, there's an IRS rate. That should be fairly basic, but then all the other expenses associated with their travel. You want to make sure that you have a very clear and broad travel policy that covers all of the things that are and are not covered so that you don't get yourself into trouble. But something that comes up that's kind of related, if they're driving their own personal vehicles and it's beyond their normal commute, you also have to pay for their travel time. Regardless of whatever industry you're in, when they're traveling to a customer site, that is compensable work time. It's not an expense issue, but it's adjacent to an expense issue. They should be clocked in. They should be paid at their normal rate for that time. Last thing to talk about in terms of expenses is cell phone use. This is the most common type of expense reimbursement claim that we see. Very often in wage and hour class action and PAGA cases, we will see the argument that employees use their cell phones for work purposes and we're not reimbursed for them or we're not reimbursed sufficiently. So the first thing to do is have a policy. Is it necessary for folks to use a cell phone? If it is, consider giving everybody a cell phone. And then you just eliminate the issue of how much to reimburse. If it's not, consider a policy that says cell phones are not allowed. And you could be subject to discipline if you are using your cell phone during work. Another option is, if you don't want to give everybody a cell phone, is you can say, look, you can have the option of having a work phone, or if you're going to use your personal phone, we're going to reimburse you a portion of your bill.